So there's a full list of our clubs and societies on the SU website. The Taylor Swift Society has just started, lads. Any interest, or am I the only one who would give that a go?
I have a lot of interest in Taylor Swift. It would definitely appeal to me, but on the basis of what I'm thinking, I'm going to say around 247.
Oh, that is a big number. Like.
That is big.
But the question is, who's right?
Hello everybody and welcome to the Queen's University Life at the Lanyon podcast. For those that don't know, the Lanyon building at Queen's sits right in the heart of our campus and it's one of the best known beautiful buildings around Belfast. Today we are joined by a couple of guests who are going to talk to you about our topic of clubs and societies, Find Your Thing. And this podcast is all about giving you an insight into what university life is like so that you can make those informed decisions about whether or not you want to come and study with us. My name is Raymond Miller. I'm the undergraduate recruitment officer here at Queen's, and we have a couple of representatives from different clubs and societies across the university. So, guys, if you want to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Joe. I'm the president of the DragonSlayers Society. Nice to be here.
Thanks, Joe.
And hello, Raymond. I am Niall Jackman. I'm the Sports Clubs Development Officer for the SU at Queen's University.
Our guests may not be aware here, and our listeners, that there are over 220 clubs and societies at Queen's. Are you comfortable that you guys are the representative for 220 clubs and societies right now?
Certainly not.
Yeah, there's just like so many of them that you can't really account for them with two people.
They are, I know.
But we'll try our best to try
best.
to cover the bases.
Now, you represent about 65, 55 sports clubs. Is that kind of...
Yeah, I think currently, Raymond, post-COVID, we're probably etching back up to the pre-COVID figures of about 61, 62 active sports clubs. That had dropped off a wee bit, obviously, through closures and through, obviously, sporting restrictions over that time, and a few have failed to kind of recover from that. But yeah, and around the 60 mark now is where we're sitting.
So around 60, and in total there's 220 between the societies and the clubs across the campus. Let's talk about a few of those in a bit more detail. But before we do, there are different types. So we have sports clubs, primarily playing sport. We have societies, would maybe be described as pastimes or hobbies or interests.
Yeah.
And then we have academic societies as well. So those generally would be where you're meeting with people who are maybe studying the same course as you or have the same interest in terms of the academic stuff. And those aren't just societies that, the Law Society doesn't just talk about law. They will have social events and stuff as well. So those are kind of the three main societies and clubs we would have here at Queen's. The first one I want to talk about then is the DragonSlayers Society. Joe,
yes.
Give us a wee bit more information about what you guys do.
Well, it's sort of like a bunch of different stuff rolled into all one society. It's like gaming, board games, anime as well would be part of it. And it would just be a sort of all-in-one. So you can do one thing, start playing games, and then maybe swap over to board games and stuff. It's good fun, like.
Excellent. And are there many kind of members within your society?
It's one of the bigger ones, actually. There's quite a few. I think last year the count was about 400.
So that's a big society.
One of the bigger ones, yeah.
And the name DragonSlayers, I'm going to guess some sort of origin from Dungeons and Dragons, or am I way off?
Yeah, it sort of founded back when those sort of RPGs were really big. They're still big now. Like, we obviously do Dungeons and Dragons and DragonSlayers, like.
Sounds like a good society.
Aye.
Some sports clubs that we have now, obviously with more, well-known ones, GAA, hockey, rugby, underwater hockey, I noticed was on the list. Tell me about underwater hockey. What is it and how do I get involved?
Not my biggest background in terms of awareness and understanding of that particular sport. It's not where my tradition lies in sport. But underwater hockey, it's been a pretty popular sport at Queen's for the last number of years, certainly since I've been in post. We have a diving pool. We're fortunate enough with great facilities, obviously, at Queen's, as you know, Raymond, in the PEC. So we have the diving pool. And I think the crux of underwater hockey is that we get a group of keen students that are happy enough to be submerged in water for a prolonged period of time.
And I assume they have a wee stick and puck.
Yeah, they've got a wee underwater hockey stick and puck, and it's played along the surface of the diving pool. And it mightn't be the diving pool, actually. It might just be the general pool. I think the diving pool's a bit deep. Sometimes they would train across both. But yeah, popular sport, and it's always gained kind of good attention and membership figures over the years.
Another society then I want to touch on is, as I say, more kind of the academic side of things. So you can join, for example, the Law Society, as I mentioned there, and they have formals and balls throughout the year that you can attend. They will have different social events, but then they will also have guest speakers that would come in as well. So the academic societies cover both social aspects and more informative stuff as well. Another kind of sports club that kind of, I thought to myself, my goodness, what is that? Sub Aqua Club. We're kind of going on a water theme here. I didn't mean to go down the water theme. What is the Sub Aqua Club?
I suppose we're in Ireland, on the island of Ireland. There's plenty of it about. Like so, Sub Aqua again. They'd have a couple of different strands to their club as well, regarding obviously deep diving, sea diving. Qualifications in lifeguarding and things like that as well would all come into play there. So students that might want to add a few strings to their bow. I know they put emphasis on that in their development plans to try and get students trained up in those particular areas. And I suppose, like any club, Sub Aqua, it has the opportunity for travel, sometimes to warmer climates than Northern Ireland.
Of course.
Anywhere where there's water and a wee bit warmer temperature. And again, as you've already touched on, like so many of our clubs and societies, the social element is there, the opportunity to meet new people, learn new skills, gain new qualifications. Subac was definitely one of those clubs that would embody all of that. So, fantastic club to have on offer here, Queens, and just one of many.
Definitely one of 200, over 220. Are you part of any other clubs and societies, Joe, or any
I'm
of your
just
friends?
part of DragonSlayers, but
Any
there's
of
a few
your friends?
others that, a few friends are in a bunch of different ones.
Excellent. Any you want to mention that would be interesting for our listeners?
I'm not sure though. I know it's mostly just the academic societies of their
course.
subject, so it's like chemistry society.
Yeah, and those
physics.
are popular ones.
Those
'cause
are big, yeah.
Definitely. Another one that I was looking at, so there's a full list of our clubs and societies on the SU website. The Taylor Swift Society has just started, lads. Any interest, or am I the only one who would give that a go?
I have a lot of interest in Taylor Swift. Definitely, it would definitely appeal to me. As far as I'm aware, that's a relatively newly ratified society.
It is. They're very new. They actually had their first event a few weeks back where they had a karaoke night solely singing Taylor Swift songs.
That doesn't even sound that bad, is the thing.
It sounds good.
That
doesn't
sounds
it?
good.
Yeah.
So I think the point we're trying to get across here, there's a wide range. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to focus on academic stuff, if you want more informative societies, if you want to go for your interests or your sporting ability, or if you want Taylor Swift, there's a whole range of things that you can choose, and that's such a plus point when it comes to university, because yes, you're focusing on your degree and getting that degree, but there's that side of things outside of your studies that you can do. In terms of joining a club or society, so if we have listeners here that really want to join DragonSlayers or any of the sports clubs, how do you actually go about joining a club or society, Joe?
You would typically there's obviously the website or social medias of the club where you can just get a sort of link or something, or you could just rock up at one of the sessions if you know what's happening.
Yeah, so
And
I suppose follow their social media channels and get in contact with them that way.
yeah,
At the start of the year, there tends to be a big freshers fair. So for those that don't know, it's like all first years gather together and all the clubs and societies will showcase what they do. And there's an opportunity there to sign up for clubs and societies as well. Isn't that right?
I would really recommend going actually, because that's how I actually joined DragonSlayers in the first place, through the Freshers Fair.
I mean, Freshers Fair is one of those events. It opens up just the wide world of possibilities for students, and what exists in Queens. Yes, we have all this information online, we have all this information on social media, but obviously Freshers Fair is one of the pinnacle events for new students, for all students, every single year. And when you can actually get out in person, it's very much a carnival atmosphere.
Yeah.
There's always bits and pieces. There's fun and games on around the whole event itself. But you're going from stall to stall, table to table, and you're realizing, there's clubs, there's societies here that you'd never heard of maybe before, that you thought, when you were younger, maybe you had a passing interest of giving that a go. And then all of a sudden, it's your first opportunity to do that. And on those stalls, Raymond, you'll have representatives and committee members from those clubs and societies that'll be willing to, walk you through what the club's about, when they train, when they meet, when their activities take place, give you a bit more background. And, there is no one that sets a certain level of expectation in terms of experience. Every club and society that we have in Queens are open to new members, and that's really important. So basically anything that tickles your fancy, if you come to a Freshers Fair event, the world's your oyster.
And is there a limit? Time is a limit there. If you joined every single club or society, you're not going to be able to do it. But in essence, there's no limit.
No, in essence, practically there's no limit at all. You can join every single one of them if you want. You've got to be sensible though with your time. What we would recommend to all students is that you get a feel for things, in the first few weeks for everybody, particularly freshers. It's coming to a new university, starting a new course, you've got to find your feet and see what time you have to spare. Academia is obviously, our primary goal for being at university. So that's what we have to kind of work around. But see what you like and see what you can dedicate your time to. And definitely, alongside the clubs themselves, we also work closely with Queen's Sport with regards to the club element of it, for active campus taster days. So rather than just jumping straight in to a certain club or activity that you feel you might want to sign up to for the year, it gives you an opportunity to come and have a go first. But yeah, in essence, there's no limit.
Another limit, maybe for some, is there a cost to join in these? Do you guys charge anything?
Yeah,
in terms
there's
of
just a small fee for the year, maybe 5 for students, 10 for non-students, sort of thing.
And that's kind of to cover your running costs throughout the year.
Yeah, and it's for the whole year as well, so it's.
I mean, that's a pretty good membership fee.
That's not a bad membership fee at all.
A lot of our clubs and societies will go down that route, Raymond, but there are a good portion of our clubs and societies that that waive membership fees. So it's completely at the discretion of the club and the committee. But as Joe rightly points out, it's a way of getting some much needed funds into the club so that they can meet their development plan targets and do what they actually want to do throughout the year. But it's probably on average it is around the £5 mark for the year that most clubs and societies charge.
And you mentioned the committee a couple of times there. Now, you obviously sit in the committee, Joe. You're the president. What other roles would fall under that? And people joining a club or society don't necessarily have to join the committee straight away. You can be a general member and maybe work towards becoming a committee member.
Yeah, exactly.
So what roles are within the DragonSlayers?
Well, within DragonSlayers, there's the sort of executive committee, which is like the president, the treasurer, and the secretary. But under that, there's like smaller roles that sort of micromanage like the different sections of the club. So it would sort of be like RPGs, so Dungeons and Dragons, gaming. There'd be anime as well. There'd be board games. There'd be all sorts of stuff like.
So there'd be kind of committee members that would organise those specific events.
Each sort of specific events, yeah.
And the three you mentioned there, would that be typical now? Would you need to have your president, your secretary, and what was the other one?
The treasurer.
Treasurer. Those are the main ones, would they be?
Yeah, those are your three essential executive committee positions, Raymond. So every club and society, to be ratified and to be classed as an active club or society at Queen's, you'll have to have those three committee positions in place and filled. And as Joe rightly points out, particularly for the larger clubs that have a lot more going on, it's a good idea to delegate and create maybe subcommittees. For example, some of our larger sports that would have, a wide variety of equipment. You might have an equipments officer there. You might have a logistics officer if there's a club that does a lot of traveling for their events or their competitions. And you might have like vice or assistant roles to each of those positions as well. And it's not creating rules for the sake of creating rules. If there's a need for it, we encourage it and we recommend it. And it's also an opportunity. There's no expectation on anybody that joins a club or society to get involved with the committee. But the benefits of moving into a committee position or a supporting committee position is massive, and we always get that feedback. I'm sure Joe would say the same in terms of your personal development, career development. Yeah. It all lends itself really well to that. So there's opportunity for that virtue of being in a club.
Definitely. So you're having fun, you're doing something you enjoy, and you're also developing those skills. Effectively making yourself more employable in a way as well. By doing
there's
that.
a lot you could probably write down in a CV or something that if you've been a part of a committee like.
Certainly, and I suppose a lot you can kind of talk about as well. There's probably days where you're organising an event and you have to react to things that are going on. So no, that's definitely really good. Now I want to speak, I suppose, more specifically about sports clubs now. And we've covered off that there are around 65 sports clubs. Generally, year to year, would you get many new clubs forming, or sports kind of have there's only a finite number of sports, so when you cover off the most of those?
I thought that too until I took on my post. No, I mean, you get some weird and wonderful clubs, and since I consider myself, my background has been sport, both in my private life and then obviously, my career, my degree at university, it's all been related around sport, and I'm still taken aback at by certain classifications of sports clubs that come to us and say, look, we want to set up a club, like for example aerial sports, which I never really would have had much knowledge of. Strand of gymnastics.
I'm that's new to me. Aerial sports.
So it's I want to be very correct with my language here, but I know I'm going to let myself down a bag full, but it's those big circular rings.
Okay, yes.
That you would see in artistic gymnastics.
Yeah.
The likes of pole dancing would
polar
size would fall under that there. So we had a group of students that came to us about 4 or 5 years ago, just pre-COVID, that got that set up and became really popular very, very quickly. and they've managed to sustain a few blips in terms of committee and obviously the whole COVID issue with changeover of committee, but it's managed to kind of steady itself out again. And obviously great for health and fitness and people with a particular niche interest in that end of sport. Then we've obviously got our more, what we would class as culturally significant and popular sports, the likes of our 5 academy sports, which is GAA, rugby, rowing, soccer and hockey.
And in terms of so obviously they're well-established sports, priority sports for Queens, as they have academies attached to them. And I suppose for an understanding for people watching and listening, those 5 sports will have coaches for each team. You'll have umpires every week. You have support from the gym and the sports facilities. So they really are prioritised to try and develop those clubs because they are significant clubs for the university.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a good summary?
Yeah,
of it?
and I mean it's not to be elitist or to be discriminatory against any other club. It's just the cultural significance of those sports on the island of Ireland, the popularity amongst both local and international students for those sports as well. You know, and a big driver for these academy status sports is obviously the alumni and the past members unions that are in there, supported financially, supported in terms of coaching and volunteerism. There's a massive drive there, and I wouldn't say easier run clubs, but certainly more people willing to get involved and easier to run in that regard. I mean, you're never going to be too shy of
numbers,
of coaching or numbers, etc. So they get a lot of support, and then obviously on a performance pathway element of things, we're lucky enough that we have a few of those clubs that consistently do well year on year at third level competition, which is a big obviously drive and promotion for the university.
Definitely. I suppose one of those, just because I mean I play the sport and I was saying recently the men's hockey team won the Ulster League. I know the ladies have won the Ulster League a couple of years recently as well. That's maybe in part down to a new pitch that was put down a couple of years ago. So in terms of facilities, there are really good facilities for our sports clubs.
We literally have world class facilities, Raymond. I mean, we have teams, particularly the hockey, as you mentioned. Absolute state of the art hockey pitches up at the Dub there in Upper Malone. We have, you know, professional teams and international teams that are coming from the world over to use it as a training base. So it's a massive draw. Anybody that comes and plays in those pitches, it's the best surface they've ever played on.
Yeah.
Alongside the first class, obviously changing facilities. You know, we've got the pavilion up there at the Dub campus as well.
So that Upper Malone, the Dub, that's your hockey, GAA, soccer and rugby pitches would all be there.
That's basically the hub for 4 of our 5 academy sports. Then obviously we've got our rowing, who are based out of the boat club
house
at Strumillis.
So if you're interested in rowing, that is actually based right on the River Lagan, so you're getting that opportunity to get out onto the water.
Exactly.
Which is, you know, you don't want to be stuck on a rowing machine if you want to do some rowing.
No,
so
exactly.
having that facility is brilliant. And I suppose the other thing to mention is that there is the Physical Education Centre. So that is a centre that we have on campus here. It's just about a 5-minute walk away from the main Lanyon building, and in there you've loads of facilities for maybe more activity based programs, so weightlifting, swimming, there's basketball hoops, there's climbing walls, all those sorts of things. If you just want to get physically active and you don't necessarily want to do a sport, that is an option for you. Yeah.
So and that would be a big part of our active campus programs that are run by Queen Sport there. As you say, you know, getting involved and things like, you know, social table tennis, social badminton, programs like that may, and it's a good intro then into the clubs that are on offer. You know, that it hosts the vast majority of our indoor sports, would train out of the PEC, but also probably important to mention our brand new Elmwood 1 building as well, which has been a game changer for all of our clubs and societies, because we have so many collaboration rooms, meeting rooms. We have the Mandela Hall, obviously has been revamped and in there, which is a great space for the likes of awards events and for social nights out as well.
Yeah, and we discussed that actually just in the previous podcast. We were talking about the Students' Union and One Elmwood and everything that has to offer. So if you want to find out more about that, you can go to our previous podcast as well. But it is an amazing facility.
Unbelievable.
Speaking of facilities then, so the sports clubs primarily, you're talking PEC, Upper Malone, Boathouse, and then someone would go kind of other places. For the societies, where do they tend to meet, Joe?
Typically just in, you know, the SU building, as you were saying.
Yeah,
there.
One Elmwood there.
Would you just book out some rooms, you know, meet up, have a sort of set date or time or whatever?
And if you guys are gaming, for example, would you just bring stuff along, plug it in?
Yeah, we sort of have our own little thing in the store. We would just bring it out of there, and then I know people can bring their own stuff if they want to set up their own stuff, but we will have like consoles and stuff to set up.
Excellent. And then I suppose other clubs and societies that, there's 220 of them, they can't all meet in one Elmwood. What other spaces or social spaces are they tending to meet in? Is it just across the campus?
So outside of what we've already spoke about, some of our clubs, if they don't, I mean, the majority, obviously, we are able to accommodate. Our tennis club, for example, would have links with some of the local tennis facilities in Belfast as well. Badminton as well, the likes of Lisburn Rackets, they would have some events out there as well. So we do try and, a lot of our clubs via their NGBs, which is their national governing bodies for their sport, they would link in with, development staff that are in there if they struggle, if they struggle for accommodation of all of their teams. A lot of our clubs, because they're so popular, they grow and they grow and they grow, and our committees try to cater for those as much as possible. Sometimes that means reaching out for a bit of help off campus. So wide variety. I mean, we've got a sailing club at Queen's, which is very popular. They work primarily out of Bangor Yacht Club. So, again, just linking in with the local community and, the facilities that we have on offer off campus as well. So it's not, whilst it primarily is centralised on campus, there's a lot of links into community facilities as well.
Excellent. And that would, I would say, go with the societies as well. If they can't find social spaces across the campus, they can maybe link in with local community centres or other areas if they need to meet up in bigger spaces. But primarily those would be happening kind of on the Queen's campus.
Yeah.
So when it comes to actually starting a club or society, how would you go about doing that? We mentioned earlier that there's, some of them kind of fall away and then they regenerate again based on committee members and stuff.
Yeah.
For your society, Joe, were you there for the founding of the DragonSlayers?
No, sadly not. It was quite a while before my time, actually. But
so it's been quite an established club for.
It's been an established club for a while, yeah.
And when you first got involved, kind of, do you know kind of the history of how it started or who started it?
It was started sort of in the 80s, quite a while back. Like, it's one of the older societies, I'd probably reckon.
And was there a founding member? Was there a person that the chief Dragon Slayer, the first Dragon Slayer?
There probably is, but I wouldn't know their name.
You wouldn't know their name,
sadly, no.
No, so there is that element that if there's a club or society that doesn't exist already, you can start your own club or society now, isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, Raymond, anything that a student has a public interest or like a private interest in.
I'll give you one good example, because we had another guy on one of the podcasts who started the Rubber Duck Appreciation Society.
Exactly. Yeah. One of my favourites.
Well, unbelievable. Yeah. And I was chatting to him, this guy called Tim, and he does activities with rubber ducks. So whether they be wellbeing stuff, so he's done like painting with rubber ducks, or I think he was doing archery with rubber ducks. So he just incorporates rubber ducks into
like all of the other stuff. Activities. Yeah.
I think one of the most recent ones we've had come in there that I was my ears pricked up when I heard it was a couple of guys came in to speak to our society's development officer about setting up the Beer and Barbecue Society.
Sounds good.
Which is timely. If at this time of year,
definitely.
But so and like that's literally what it is. If you have an interest in virtually anything and you've got enough support around it, you come to us in the SU. If it's a sporting club, you would come directly to me. If it's a society issue, you would go to our society development officer, or Alice Devlin, who is the clubs and societies manager. Bring your idea forward. Initially, the way that process usually works, Raymond, is that we would try and initiate a bit of a meeting and a chat with you to see what your ideas are for the club or society. Check there's no similar club or society that exists that you're kind of overlapping with, and then basically take you through the process of how to get that club or society ratified. There's a few sets of minimum requirements there.
In terms of that, is there funding you have to apply for? There's committee members you have to get in place? What are the key components to making a club or society work?
The key components is we need a minimum of 15 student members interested in making it happen. Out of those 15, or in addition to those 15, you would need to have 3 willing committee members, like we talked about before, your chair, your secretary, and your treasurer. We would work with you around creating a development plan, which basically outlines what your goals are for the year, what activities you want to take part in, what socials you want to include, what is the aim of the club, what is the aim of the society. That would all go down in a development plan. You'd have to write a constitution for the club or society based, obviously, very much in line with the SU constitution. Again, we would help you with that. And then once it's all kind of formulated and together and we have those bits and pieces in place, you would pitch that to the Student Union Standing Committee Council, which meet roughly about 6 times per year. So once your proposal has been okayed by ourselves, that'll go forward to the Standing Committee. Typically the students will speak for a minute or two about the club. They'll answer a few questions, and then ultimately it'll be the decision of the Standing Committee whether the club is ratified or not.
I think the thing to get across there is whether a few steps to that.
Yeah,
You mentioned a couple of times there's support from you guys
all the way. Yeah,
all the way through that. So it's not you're going to be thrown in the deep
No,
end. You're
that's certainly
supported
not.
through that, because ultimately we want our clubs and societies to bring something to the campus, and to bring something to the wider student body, and ultimately to, like yourself, Joe, to
Yeah.
allow you to enjoy the experience of doing it and gain skills, and employability skills as you do it as well. So all those key components are really, really important. So it can be done. If you're out there and you're thinking, I've looked at the list, I'm really interested in something that doesn't exist, you can come to Queen's and start your own club or society, and that is completely an option open to you. So on this podcast, we have a section where we talk about a few myths and we try and bust those myths. So I'm going to read out a couple of statements, and if you guys can kind of give me your opinion as to whether or not those are true or false or
Yeah.
otherwise. So the first one, Joe, you'd probably be best placed for this one.
Yeah.
Clubs and societies take up all your time while you're at uni, and they distract you.
Well, it would depend on how many you joined, to be honest. Like, if you joined every society and went to every event, you would probably get distracted by that. But if you just joined, like, maybe 1 or even 2, and within reason sort of went to their events, did the stuff, it wouldn't be too bad. It would mostly be like 1 or 2 days a week or something out.
Are you, obviously, you're kind of new to the role of president, so
Yep.
have you noticed a bit more time that you have to give to being the president of the
Yeah.
DragonSlayers, and you have to balance that with your studies, I imagine?
Yeah, compared to being like non-committee, committee's a bit harder, but it's still honestly manageable to be a committee member and to get done with your studies. Like,
And probably rewarding as well. And
it
doing
is
that.
actually. It's hard work, but it is rewarding. Like,
Definitely, no, that's great. The next one, only Queen's students can join clubs or societies. Now, what would you say on that one? Is that true? Is it just for Queen's students?
No, it's not just for Queen's students, but obviously that's our focus. We're an institution that focus on our student body, and primarily that's what our clubs and societies are for. But you'll find that a lot of our clubs and societies accept what we classify as associate members. So associate members could be anybody from a student at another university, or a member of the general public,
A member of staff?
a member of staff as well. Yeah.
Taylor Swift Society?
Taylor Swift.
Rubber Duck
I think me and you are
Appreciation.
going to sign up.
Yeah,
Raymond.
Yeah, I'm signing
up right
We're
now.
coming your way.
Joe's there too. So yeah, no, and that's great as well. I know we have a lot of that throughout the likes of the active campus programs that the Queen Sport put on, where when those wee isolated programs, you have staff and student kind of mixing together. There are a lot of clubs and societies where staff and students can mix together as well. So yeah, there's a blurb I should mention on our website. You touched on it earlier on our QUBSU website, where we have an A to Z list of all of our clubs, and within the majority of blurbs of the 220 plus clubs and societies, they'll probably outline who they do and who they don't accept, but a lot of our clubs are open to associate members.
So you mentioned there, and I've mentioned it a few times, 220 plus. This last one is not quite a mythbuster. It's more a quiz.
yeah,
It's a one-question quiz.
one question quiz.
Both competitive guys. You play sport. You do gaming.
Yeah.
So here we go. I looked at the list last night, and there is an official number. We keep saying over 220.
Don't test me, Raymond.
What
Don't test me.
is the current official number of clubs and societies at Queen's? Joe, I'm going to let you go
I'm
first.
just gonna throw it a guess and say 226.
Okay. Are you sure?
No,
Okay.
but it's just a guess.
Now, what is our list looking like? How many?
Did you get this off the website?
The Alice told me that the website's just been updated, so this is fresh off the press. This is the official number right now.
I mean, 220 plus. You got a 1 in 10.
I'm going to say, because I think a few may not get into the intricacies of what and why active club status or active society status is there. But on the basis of what I'm thinking, I'm going to say around 247.
Oh, that is a big number. Like,
That is big.
But the question is, who's right?
who's closest? So
Yeah.
the official number currently is 230, according to the website.
Right, okay.
So Joe, well
So I'm
done.
a bit closer,
you,
but
you take that one.
they should just call it 230 then instead of 220 plus. But
Well, there you go, 230 as of the website. But I mean, I suppose it's important to know, as you mentioned earlier, that can change and there's different statuses. So as a club could be quite popular for a number of years, and then that committee maybe graduates and moves on, and it might take a year or two for that club or society to regenerate again. Is there an example of a sports club that's happened to recently?
There's loads of examples. And you know, so probably the best example I would give, and it's probably a pitch out there to anybody that's listening. One of our most popular and successful clubs that we've had in recent years was the Queen's Triathlon Club. COVID, like so many other clubs and societies, it hit that club really, really hard. And when you don't have the opportunity to get, you know, a proper handover from one committee to the next, any club, regardless of how popular it is or what their status is in terms of where they are in the development pathway at Queen's,
it's almost going to be like starting again.
It's like starting again, and you know, ultimately, if we don't have anybody to take over the leadership of the club, aka the executive positions, it falls away. So, on the plus side of that, those more popular sports, they tend to kind of find a way back. Cricket would be an example of that. Cricket has like been on and off since I have joined Queen's, and again, that's because there's that, you know, it probably is, you could class that as a culturally popular sport in the island of Ireland as well, and there will always be somebody coming back with interest in that. So again, if it's a club that has, or a society that has fallen away and you want to reinvigorate that, we tend to keep things what we class as dormant on the system, and open there for somebody to step in for about a 2-year period, and then after that 2-year period, we basically dissolve the club in the hope that still somebody will come back at some point in the future and set it up again.
So opportunity to join an already active club, opportunity to start a new club, an opportunity to
set up or reinvigorate a dormant
club that's maybe sitting as dormant. So loads of opportunities there.
And you get plenty of support with all that, Raymond. Like literally we'll be with you all steps of the way.
The Clubs and Society sits within the Students' Union at Queen's, and the Students' Union have award ceremonies every year, and we recently had our award ceremony, and Joe, not only are you winning the one question quiz,
I've won
but the DragonSlayers this year won Society of the Year. Let's give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
Joe. Well done. Talk us about that. How did you have to do anything to be nominated for that, or were you nominated from the Students' Union themselves?
The Students' Union had just sent out a bunch of nominees to the nominations and stuff, but it was sort of because we'd been running events for the year, like, so you would have to put in stuff to try and be in those nominees. And
were you running quite a large number of events, engaging with lots of students?
We had sort of record-breaking numbers with 400 plus members. We were doing events pretty much like every week essentially, for ages. So
that was recognised. And I assume there was an award ceremony. You got a wee dinner, do you have a trophy sitting on your mantle at home, Joe?
I think everyone got around and got a wee picture with the trophy, like, but
excellent.
It is fun, like, to get Society of the Year, like.
I know, and it must be good. You know, we talked about the benefits of being a part of a club or society, but getting that recognition as well for the good work you've done, I'm sure was really nice. So there's an opportunity there to kind of win awards for your club or society as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been really helpful and insightful for anybody wanting to know a bit more about clubs and societies. I suppose, as a final thought, what would be your final piece of advice to anyone out there who's thinking about coming to Queen's, thinking about joining a club or society? What would you say, Joe, is the benefit of being part of the DragonSlayers Society?
It would be really good for just making friends and just having a sort of chilled out session for, if studies are stressing you out, you'll show up to DragonSlayers and you'll have like a bit of fun, like.
Excellent. Niall, would you agree, disagree? What's the big benefit?
If you start me, I could be here all day in terms of the benefits. I think it's a no-brainer, Raymond, really. And I know we all have different personality types. Some of us are more shy than others. Some of us are a wee bit more extroverted. Regardless of your personality type, if you come to university, if you're in a university setting and you have an opportunity to join a club or society, you have to do it. The benefits, as Joe rightly says, of your friendship pool, just that support element, working your way through university, having that release from your studies, and particularly for the likes of sports clubs, from the physical release and physical well-being and mental well-being. Also, as we talked about in terms of the opportunity for committee rules and developing yourself in terms of your employability, your confidence, dealing with things like finance, which is a big part of working on a student committee for a club or society as well.
Absolute no-brainer.
So much that's there, and yeah, just to have that extra bit of support mechanism. And the big thing as well is if you're a member of an institution like a university, you want to have that sense of identity. Being a member of a club or society brings you closer and really embodies that sense of identity that you have with your university. So I would highly recommend it.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our guests who are listening or watching us here. And if you do have any questions or queries about anything the guys have spoke about, you can email studentrecruitment@qub.ac.uk and you will get to ask me and I can relay those questions on to the guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that and you've got a bit of an insight. And we really, really hope you'll join us for the next episode of Life at the Lanyon podcast. Thank you.